Hello, fellow travelers, and welcome to Versus Stars podcast. All my loyal listeners, thank you for your continued support. And remember, click that subscribe button, everybody. It's an amazing episode because John Layman boards the mothership. You know him as the creator of Chew. He's now the writer of In Hell We Fight from Image Comics. Come aboard as we go traversing the stars. Hello, Mr. Layman. Thank you so much for coming to Versus Stars podcast.
Yeah, sure. Happy to be here.
Totally my pleasure. So I always start off with the question of inspiration. So what inspired your love for comics and who your earliest influences?
Oh boy. What got me into comics was in 1977, growing up in a small town in California, a small farm town, is I wanted more Star Wars. And this was pre-VCR, pre-streaming, pre-everything. It had the theater run and then it was over. And I discovered I could go into my neighborhood 7-Eleven and find the further adventures of Luke Skywalker and Han Solo and all that. So, I plunked down 35 cents and would pick up Star Wars every month. And then that led to ROM and Shogun Warriors and Micronauts. And then I started, trying different DC books and Marvel books and, the rest is history. But yeah, it was Star Wars that started it in 1977 when I was, 9 or 10 years old.
So the great debate that sometimes happens in the world of comic books, whether or not movies help create comic book fans. You're saying you're the side of yes, comic book movies can lead to comic book fans.
Well, I mean, of course they can, but that was then, and this is now, and I don't know that it necessarily does now. I mean, I honestly, I think there's an oversaturation, certainly on Marvel. Like, for me, there was no other Star Wars. There was a comic book I could get monthly, but if you want, more Marvel, there's a new Marvel TV show, every quarter. There's a new Marvel movie, so I don't know if it has the same effect. I hope it does, but I don't know. When I talk to Muggles, their frame of reference is, oh, did you see this movie? Yeah, I saw the movie. Did you buy the comic? No. It's for non-comic book people, I don't know that they make the jump, or at least after a certain age.
So the other question too is obviously there's a question of continuity with Star Wars. The comic books follow when Empire Strikes Back came out and you had those 3 years and potentially some of those details did not make you the movie. Was that something that as a fan you're like, God damn it, or you're like, whatever, a great story is a great story, and you kept moving forward?
Yeah, I mean, there's nothing I can do about it. And at that point I was 12 years old, so I wasn't as discerning, I guess, a reader. But I remember those first Star Wars, they had a Jabba the Hutt that did not look like the Jabba the Hutt that we know. He's like a humanoid with like yellow skin and walrus whiskers. And then you realized, hey, they were making stuff up, not realizing Lucas was gonna show Jabba in episode 3, or when he redid, not episode 3,
episode yeah, technically for you it would have been the third movie, but it's episode 6 in continuity.
Yes, I've got my numbers all confused. And then he did the special edition where Jabba showed up in New Hope. But the fact was that writers take threads, and they didn't know that Jabba was going to come back. So it didn't bother me that much, because I sort of at least had the awareness that the comic book writers couldn't see into the future, and they were doing the best they could.
Now, did you follow Star Wars into the Dark Horse series, or did you stop after the Marvel series ended? The first Marvel series ended.
Oh, I don't even think I lasted the entire. I mean, I think the first Marvel series went like 120 issues.
I'm not sure.
And it went at least 80. I feel like it went longer. By the time Return of the Jedi rolled around, I think I stuck around for a few more years. But by then I was, reading X-Men and reading, Wolfman Perez Teen Titans, and I had sort of found other entertainment by then.
So when was it that you realized you could actually write comic books? So, I mean, every fan dreams about doing it, but very few people really believe they're going to do it.
Well, I grew up in a small farm town in California, and again, I'm old enough that this was pre-internet. Like, I do think it's a little easier now. You can you can reach out to me on Facebook or Twitter, or you can reach out to Mark Wade, or pros are within reach in a way that they weren't when I was a kid. And I would go to San Francisco twice a year, and Sacramento to these like really rinky, and cons weren't what they are now. They were a couple old guys with long boxes and some toys, and somebody from Star Trek, and a few pros. But I didn't know how to do it. So I went to college and was an English major because, that's writing, right?
Right.
And then when I graduated, I had a girl I was seeing in San Diego, and I was living in San Francisco for a year, house sitting for someone. And then when the time came up, the girl's like, "Oh, why don't you move to San Diego with me?" And I'm thinking, "Oh, that's, there's a Comic-Con there, right?" And, I went there, and I ended up at the San Diego newspaper being like Jimmy Olsen, writing articles. I mean, my primary job was doing like stock charts and graphs and the weather page, but I would also freelance what I called, nerd stuff. Like, they didn't know who Judge Dredd was when it was a Sylvester Stallone movie. They didn't know who Spawn was when it was an HBO show. And here's this, 20-year-old kid who's like, "Hey, this is a comic book." Like, great, write an article. And so I started writing articles for the San Diego Union Tribune, and Wildstorm was there. And when you work at a local paper, they want the local angle, so they're always like, "Oh, call that Jim Lee guy, see what is new and fresh in comics." And after 3 or 4 years of covering Comic-Con every year, which was a lot smaller, I got to know the Wildstorm people, and it led to a Wildstorm job. And then I worked at Wildstorm for a while, and suddenly DC bought us, and I was a DC editor. And I did about 5 years and about 200 books. And I'm like, okay, I've learned everything there is to know. I know how to write a script. I have professional friends. I've got some inroads. Time to make the jump to freelance. That would have been 2001, 2002.
So the thing with the risk of freelance, obviously, is that you handle all the burden of promotion, putting together your team. How did you learn how to properly push your material?
I still don't think I know. In fact, I've been Chew has sort of allowed me. Chew was such a success. I don't have to hustle. Like, young people have to go to shows. They got to press flesh. They gotta pitch and pitch and pitch. The dream is to be around long enough that editors call you instead of you calling editors. And I haven't reached that to the extent I'd like it, but I still I still am luckier than most. But you really got to hustle, and I feel sorry for some people that I used to follow on Twitter. I'm not so active on Twitter now, but they would promote their book every hour, every 2 hours, and it would kind of drive you crazy. You're my friend, I want to follow you, but I don't want you to just advertise to me every hour. But on the other hand, you've got this giant market, and you're trying to stand out. Like, I don't blame anyone for hustling as hard as they can, because you have to.
And I mean, with so many platforms right now, I mean, obviously there's Facebook, X, I guess it's now, Reddit, Instagram.
Yeah, and everyone's trying to find the new face, right? The new Twitter too. They're, let's try Blue Sky this month. Let's try Mastodon. Like, I feel like Twitter's implosion has kind of sent comic book people everywhere, and we're waiting to see what's going to actually last. And I do think that's hurt promotions.
I think so too. I mean, with Blue Sky is at the moment the cool kid on the block. However, having recently got on Blue Sky maybe a month or two ago, I find it nice, it's a very nice platform, but I don't see it very interactive at the moment. I mean, there's not a whole lot of I think back and forth going on right now with Blue Sky.
Yeah. I mean, Elon Musk screwed up Twitter, and I mean, Twitter had its flaws, but now it's sent people running for the hills. And it was, when it was working, it was great. You could talk to your friends, you could promote your stuff, you could meet people. If you're a fan and you want to break in, you can engage in conversation. Hopefully
Mm.
someone gives you the time and, gives you some feedback, looks at your stuff, gives you some direction, which, again, I guess the flip side is when I was young doing it, there was no people to reach out to, or it was a lot smaller. But on the other hand, I think the internet has opened the doors to a lot more people trying to be in comics. And there's a lot more way. You can do a web comic, you can do stuff for free. You can kickstart, like
Yeah.
the medium keeps changing. That's also a problem because there's 1,000 books a month to
Yeah.
choose from. I'm exaggerating a bit, but there's
No,
way too many damn books.
did to social media kind of what streaming did to television viewing, where the odds of you finding someone who's focusing on exactly the same thing that you are is much smaller. Because I mean, once again, I mean, you could be on Hive, you could be on Tribal, you could be on Spoutable, you could be on Blue Sky, you could be on LinkedIn. Now, there's a lot with posting now, where it's hard now to find, or in Mastodon, harder to find the exact audience you're actually looking for because it's so
Yeah.
spread out between everybody right now.
Yeah. And
Um,
and for some people, especially, younger, newer people, they got to hit all those things.
yeah.
You got to spend so much time promoting. It's exhausting. I mean, you're supposed to be writing or drawing or coloring or whatever.
Well, right now you're currently the writer creator of a new series called In Hell We Fight, which is a very cool series. The name alone had me picking up the issue. I was like, huh, and you know, I don't know if it's fully appreciated how important a good title is to marketing. I feel like the right title actually does almost all the work on its own and making people latch
I
onto
Yeah,
it.
yeah, I agree. And it's Tim Seeley. I was talking to my friends about it. And he's like, yeah, it's one of those, like, sentence titles.
Yeah.
Like something is someone's killing the children, or four kids walk into a bank. And I had never done that type of title before, but I thought it was fun, and it kind of captured the spirit of the book.
Mm. So, what was it when you thought about the concept? What was it the first thing about the concept that you grabbed on and said, "This is interesting"? Because I mean, as someone who writes as well, there's sometimes loads of ideas that pop in your head. Only one or two of them sometimes actually will make it to the next level of us starting it. So there's got to be that little nugget of something that intrigues you. So, what was it
Well,
about that
this
idea?
this book was different. I did a book called Chew, which I completely had planned out. I had been working on it for years and years and years, and it came out, did really well. And then my follow up, I did for Outer Darkness. I probably would have done better doing it for Image Central.
Mm.
I guess I was a little cocky that I thought it would do better, or Skybound would be behind it a little more. But I had planned it out for years and years and years,
Mm.
and had the whole thing worked out, and then they killed it, right
Mm.
before pandemic. And I was screwed because it takes me a long time to develop a book of my own. And I had met the artist is named Jock, Jok, not Jock. I had met him at Uruguay Con several years ago, liked his stuff, but I was too busy. And he showed up at my doorstep again, my internet doorstep. And he's like, hey, look at my stuff. And it's like, wow, this is really good. I really like this. He's like, do you have anything for me? I'm like, well, no, but I don't have anything, period. Let's come up with something. And I looked at it, and I looked at his art, and we wanted something a little more whimsical and a little, less. It was coming out of COVID. We didn't want to do anything so dark and
Mm.
murdery and downbeat. And I just kind of wanted something a little more fun. And unlike other books I've done that have been planned out, this was a lot more spontaneous, and it was a lot harder. I'm
Mm.
making it up issue to issue. And it was kind of scary. I was not as confident about that book as I've been with others, because I'd spent more time developing it. But here I had this artist, and it's funny because I showed it to Image, and Image is like, "Oh yeah, we'll do it." It's like, "Oh shit," I gotta write it. I gotta come up with this. So Jock's been great. Yeah, I just got 4 in the mail today. We're doing 5 again. Um, there's a lot of books out there, and it's hard to get traction.
Mm.
And I am paying for this. So we're gonna put the trade out and let some money come in on the trade, because I honestly can't afford to do an arc and then another arc until I pay a little more off of the first arc. So we're gonna take a break between arcs, and then the plan was to do 3 5-issue arcs. So we're getting this first one. In fact, I'm getting issue 5 out the door this week, and then we'll get the trade with a lot of extras, a lot of bonuses, and hopefully the trade audience is completely different than the floppy audience often, and hopefully with the trade out we'll get a whole new set of eyes, and expand our readership.
So are you the only writer who thinks to themselves, I want to do something more fun, let's stick my characters in hell?
Well, yeah, I mean that was the irony, because it sounds dark, and I told my friends that, yeah, it's about these kids in hell, and they're like, wow, that's dark, and I'm like, well, not really. They're stealing ice cream, they're getting into I mean, it's dark when you describe it that way, but you could describe Casper in a certain way and it would seem dark. Beetlejuice, I just there's always going to be, I get, even when I do light stuff, there's going to be a bit of humorous darkness to it.
Like I said, it really is a great fun concept. And the interesting thing is, because you're dealing with hell, how did you approach creating the rules of hell and how your protagonists were going to exist within it?
Well, like I said, I've been making it up as I go, and I'm just trying to make each issue kind of different from each other, and then build the bigger world. And there's 3 human characters, and each arc was going to focus on each of the 3, and then tell the larger story. But this was a case where I'm figuring it out as I go, and typically I'm not a guy who does a lot of revision. Like, I put it on the page, I move on, but typically I also plan out a book a little more than I have. So this one, I wrestled with it certain points. I rewrote this book more than I've rewritten anything. And again, lack of preparation. I didn't have 5 years to sit around and plan this book. I thought I'd be working on Outer Darkness, and when they pulled the rug out from under that, suddenly I'm like, oh shit, I got to get another book. But I don't have anything planned, so let's do something crazy and fun and spontaneous.
So even though you're creating it spontaneously, you're still doing a lot of world building, looks like, within the story. So
that's my favorite thing. I love to just expand on a giant world and tell a big story.
So how do you make sure you're balancing that world building with that character development? Because sometimes it feels like, as a writer myself, that sometimes one element can pull you too far ahead of the other, so you get lost in it. So how do you back up and go, wait a second, I need to focus more on this, I need to make sure I'm doing this, and keeping it in working together?
Well, this time I did a lot of rewriting, which I haven't in the past, and I even sought out friends. Hey, will you read this and give me your feedback? And just a lot of deep thinking and revising, and I had to give it a lot more thought than I normally do. And yeah, you're right. There were some issues like, oh, there's too much. I gotta, I'm not hitting the character beats. I need to cut this, even though I hate to cut, something cool, to give you, character moments, because that's the most important thing. You got to care about the characters.
Right. So another thing is too, is that you have your protagonist, Alexander, Ernie, and Midori. Am I saying it correctly?
Midori, yeah.
Midori. They're not in hell by accident. They're not. This is like one of those stories where someone accidentally got pulled to hell. They earned their spot there. So because these characters kind of do belong in hell to some level, how did you want to write them in a way that you can still, as a reader, empathize with them and want them to succeed, given to where they are?
Well, the first arc, you will realize when you get to the end, is Midori's story, and she definitely belongs there. She was a hitman for the mob. Ernie doesn't belong there at all, and he's got this cursed axe in his head by Jason Voorhees or whoever, and he's stuck in hell, and part of it is the bad kids who aren't really bad, but it'll be a redemption. They're helping the angel, but they're helping themselves, and they're helping their friends. And then Xander is not as bad as you think.
Okay.
Once his story is fully told, and his is going to be the last of the three. His will be 11 through 15.
So, and another character that you had that's kind of interesting is the Angel.
Yeah.
Now, interestingly, with the Angel, I don't believe you've named the Angel, so we don't know which one it
No,
is.
she had a name, and then I thought it would be funny to just name her Angel. And so, I changed that, and she hasn't, with 5 characters and 5 issues, you only get so much development. So I feel that she is underdeveloped for this first arc. I'm aware of that. That's going to change, but you can only squeeze so many things in 20 pages a month in 5 issues.
So when we think about angels of heaven, you have your archangel, Cerebrum. I think the choir, some other ones as well. Do we know which level of angel is?
Oh, she's just, she's real. She's the bottom rung. She's just, basically a good person, or a very low level angel, or the daughter of an angel. But yeah, she's not important in the big picture.
So
I mean,
another
cosmically speaking,
cosmic,
not in the book.
I gotcha. Now, another interesting about angels as well is that when you think about theology, the idea that angels, once they step foot on like this earth or soil or hell, they can't get back into heaven. Angel obviously has been steeped in heaven for hell for a while. So how does this change Angel, and how easy will it be for her to get back into heaven?
Oh, well, I ignore that rule altogether. There's no actual theology. In fact, I had to make that clear to Jock. It's like, look, there's no actual sacrilege. There's no religion here. This is just, it's the Goonies or Stand By Me, but we're just giving it a fantastical setting. So yeah, if there's a rule that's inconvenient, it goes out the door.
How does the experience of hell though change her as an individual?
Well, see, here's the thing. It's in some ways it's not hell I mean, they're in hell, but they're with friends, and they're like, they're having fun and all this sort of stuff. And I think part of it is, you can appear to be in, I mean, this is getting a little deep, but you can appear to be in hell, but if people got your back, it's not going to be hell, because it's not so bad. And that's part of the thing. I mean, this is the main thing about this book is friendship and loyalty.
Now, we're thinking about another great Midori. As you mentioned, she's raised to be an assassin. But would she have lived a good life if she was raised by somebody else? Is she inherently that kind of individual, or is she a good person where fate was unkind to her, where she ended up?
I can't tell you that because of issue 5.
Okay. So there's something big in issue 5 that's going to deal with Midori and her fate.
This arc, it starts out, maybe you think it's Xander's story because it starts, about him and the Frog Devil, but that's really the overarching story. That's 15. But yeah, this is Midori's story, and you're gonna the truth will be revealed in issue 5.
Now, I may be reading too much into it, and if I am, you can always back me out of it. But I decided to read deeply into it. So I'm reading to it as a theme of the idea of fate and the idea of hell and whether or not it's deserved. The reason I'm coming up with that is the idea of say the name wrong, Balfa Dagan,
yeah,
Balfa Dagan, who does not seem deserving of his place in hell. What does it suggest about the demons if they can overcome their nature and turn out to be relatively good considering what they are? And I'm thinking the same way as Midori, as well as that same kind of connection of fate. Does she?
Yeah,
what is she?
It's kind of the flip side. I mean, he seems without guile. He's this dumb, innocent kid, but his father's this like archdemon lord. They're not going to let him into heaven. He's going to have to prove himself. And I think before meeting these kids, it never would have even occurred to them. This was his place. He just never really fit in as somebody evil.
And is there a path for Balfa Dagan to enter heaven? I mean, is it just a destination, or are there rules to follow to get into it?
This is overly simplistic, but I think if they're if they do enough good on their journey, once they get there, they can probably get in.
And that's true of the demons. That's true of Xander, true of Midori, that potentially are they kind of doing like trials of Hercules that eventually will cleanse them and they can get into heaven.
Yeah. I mean, potentially, and like someone like Midori, it wouldn't even occur to her that she is on a road to redemption. She's so convinced she's evil, she wouldn't even think that, but yet she's doing good, So, I don't want to give away any kind of endings, but yeah, you get redeemed on your way, backing up your friends and doing good things.
And are we going to find out why he hates the frog so much?
Yeah. That is the third arc. The it's all about Xander and the Frog Devil.
Where did that even come from? The idea of the Frog Devil? Because when I first thought about it, there was it felt like something when I was reading. I was like, is this like a real like a mythology story that I don't know, like old folktale? It feels like it was a folktale, that whole Frog Devil thing.
No, it was just silly, and I wanted a layer of silliness, especially in the first issue, because I didn't want you to think you were getting, a really murdery, ugly book. So, you got kids stealing ice cream. They're, dealing with a giant frog that's a devil. I just, I wanted, despite the subject matter being kids being in hell, I wanted it to feel fun. So, throw in some silliness.
Well, I really do think it's extraordinary. Just and it's such a colorful series as well, and a fun series. I know you said you didn't plan ahead, but how much of the story, like, what did you feel is pulling you the furthest along in the story as you're planning it issue by issue? Has it been a thread that you just realized that's been the key the entire time?
Well, it's harder issue by issue than it is arc by arc. Like, I know the skeleton, but I haven't had time to like put the muscles and the skin and the hair and everything, but like I know the roughest architecture. Like, this arc's about this person, this is where it ends up, this is where it ends up, and this is where it ends. But on an issue to issue basis, I didn't have details figured out like I have in the past.
Has there been anything where you thought, if I could have gone back and changed something in the earlier issue because of what I realized I wanted to do later on, you would have?
Yeah, and we actually changed it already for the trade.
Oh, really?
Yeah, because we put out some short stories for the Image anthology before the thing debuted, and there were some continuity errors in there, and I didn't know how many people read it anyways, but we went in and changed it, and when you read the trade, you won't know.
Now, I will admit, I didn't know there were those short stories. That's actually news to me. I didn't know they were out there. So can you kind of give us some information about what those were or what those are?
Yeah, the Image put out an anthology last year. 12 in 12 months, and just various short stories. And we did the first one was they're just fun little stories. They're just little 8-pagers. The first one we teamed up with there's a book called The Silver Coin, which is a horror anthology, and basically anyone who finds the silver coin, it's different short stories of like a Twilight Zone or a creep show, and people who find the coin, bad things happen to them. I did the flip side where they find the silver coin in hell and they have good luck for a short story. and then I did another, and they're just cute kind of throwaway stories that just kind of show you the characters. We did another one where they just find a spaceship in hell, and they want to explore and look for laser guns and stuff like that. And as I said earlier, my book Outer Darkness got unceremoniously canceled. It's not an Outer Darkness epilogue, but if you squint really hard and pretend it is, you could see it as an epilogue. That's as close as I'll get. And then for this 5-issue, knowing that we're probably going to we are going to take a little break. I felt 5 was a little anticlimactic to give you this ending and then make you wait. So we've added an extra 5-page story that I feel like will tie everything up together to make the wait a little less, a little less unendurable.
So what can our listeners look forward to in later issues of In Hell We Fight?
Well, the next the next issue, the next arc is Empire Strikes Back. It's the darkest one, and that's Ernie's story. And he was killed by an axe murderer, and he's got a haunted axe in his head, and he lives in a house that's a magnet for serial killers and crazed demons and stuff. So it gets a little darker, and then we get into Xander's story, and then it's set up in such a way that if the numbers, if it became a giant hit, we'd go a lot longer. But I would really at least like to tell this 15-issue tale.
Well, Mr. Layman, it's been an absolute pleasure to talk with you, sir. And In Hell We Play really is a great, fun story. And I want hopefully our listeners pick up at the anthologies that have the missing issues that I didn't even know existed. So I know what I'm doing later.
Well, I got a couple other things I should promote as long as
Okay.
I have a venue here. I'm doing a prequel to the Suicide Squad Kills the Justice League game that's coming out.
Oh, okay.
And it's weird because I wrote the thing a while ago, but the game keeps being delayed. And it's from the makers of Arkham, the Arkham series. So it's set in the same world. So I'm doing a prequel to the game called Suicide Squad Kills Arkham Asylum.
Oh, that's
so
cool.
Set in that universe. And it kind of shows how this Suicide Squad got together. And it was great because I'm like, well, this isn't in continuity, and you're killing characters, and you killed characters in the Arkham games. Can I kill people? They're like, oh yeah, give us a list of who you want to kill. So I gave them like a list of like 30 characters, and they came back and like, well, not these two or these two. And I'm like, what about all these? They're like, yeah, fair game. So I get to kill people left and right in really
Nice.
fun ways.
Can you give us a spoiler of one of the key characters that get killed off?
Mad Hatter.
Oh shit, I like that character too.
No, I got to kill off some big guys. And then speaking of killing, I'm doing a Spawn book, and it's Spawn Kills Every Spawn, and they've done like Spawn Kills Everyone, or Spawn Kills like Marvel and DC, or they've done some other like jokey kind of one shots or minis. But they've hooked me up with this guy named Rob Sketchcraft Dunez, and he's just this insane artist. And now there's all kinds of different, there's medieval Spawn and She Spawn and Mandarin Spawn, and there's a Spawn group, and it's this little like chibi Spawn who's like the lamest Spawn, and he figures if he kills every other Spawn, he'll be the number one Spawn. So he wants to kill his way up to the top. So it's a Warner Brothers cartoon, and I never thought I'd be writing Spawn in any shape, way, shape, or form.
So how does that fit in? Does that fit into that continuity connected, or
No,
is this its own thing?
It's very self-aware, and this little goofy Spawn knows he's not in continuity, and he's mad about that, and so he's trying to kill his way into continuity. If he ends up killing Spawn, they'll have no choice but to make him make him the real Spawn, and therefore put him in continuity. So yeah, I'm breaking the fourth wall, and all kinds of that is a story point, that he's not in continuity and he wants to be.
So, like you mentioned, this medieval Spawn, She Spawn, Gunslinger Spawn. What's the name of this Spawn, and at what point, and where is he in the timeline?
Well, Todd McFarlane, he's in these other books, they just call him Chibi Spawn.
Chibi?
Chibi, like the little chibi, the little like it's a Japanese thing, I think.
Okay.
Like little cutesy version. But I've got his mom and his dog and all that, and they call him Albert, as in Al Simmons, but he's like little Albert.
Yeah.
So it's it's little Albert Simmons, wanting to kill everybody else. It's a lot of fun.
Because it's Spawn, and it's obviously going to be there's going to be a toy, assuming of this eventually. Are you ready for the action figure?
Oh, I'd love it. I mean, I'm writing it with the intention, I'm also creating as many Spawns as possible, because it's like, the whole multiverse of, like they did the Spider-Verse, but I get to go even goofier with Spawn. So yeah, I'm hoping I get toys out of it. That would be fantastic.
When is this one supposed to come out?
Good question. They announced it at San Diego, and at New York they're doing a little preview book, and the artist is wrapping issue 3 right now. He's not a monthly guy, but if it's not my creator-owned book, I don't worry about it. You know, that's the editor's job. That's the publisher's job. I just know that they it's not on the calendar yet, but I would imagine by spring of next year, that's the kind of shape we're in.
Now, I'm a huge Spawn fan. I buy, Gunslinger Spawn. I buy Scorched. I buy Spawn. I buy King Spawn. I buy all the issues. I've been buying them for a while now. I'm a big fan. Now, interestingly enough, since you're writing In Hell We Fight, is there going to be a Spawn somewhere in the background from Spawn's work? Because you're all writing for Image.
That's definitely something that I wish I was in tighter with the McFarlane group with the first arc, because that could have helped us. But yeah, believe me, I've thought about that.
Yeah.
I would love to have Spawn show up. In fact, doing some kind of special or one shot with Spawn would massively boost our numbers.
Oh, I imagine so. I mean, it's kind of funny with Spawn is that it's had a very weird history of sales where in the 90s it was one of the biggest comics ever lived. Then it kind of fell off the cliff a little bit and the net sales plummeted, and then had like a resurgence about 4 or 5 years ago that just seems to increase.
Yeah.
It's
like
weird.
People suddenly notice, hey, wait, Spawn's still around. Like,
right.
I'm guilty of that myself. And then suddenly, like, people are liking it again. And then Todd's, taking advantage of it with Scorched. And, it's not just Spawn now. There's a Spawn universe.
Yeah, I think Spawn is like the only comic I can think of where it's like most valuable issues are like issue like 193 or like 200.
Certainly not one. I mean, one had millions of copies or whatever.
It's so weird because like I said, because having I have about 100 or so issues of the original Spawn series, and I have like a lot of the first 100. I have everything that's around 290 after, because I've been buying I got back to it, but the ones in the middle are the ones that you can't find, because it's like the ones that were down
when they
crashed.
They dropped. Yeah,
right.
Yeah, I'm actually reading through all the compendiums right now.
that was wicked fun.
Yeah, and I haven't read a lot of this stuff in decades.
Right.
And like rereading the first 50 issues, you sort of remember how fun it was, and just the energy of it.
Well, I mean, it's such a great character, and like I said, anything with Spawn is worth reading, because the more you thought about it, the more you get back into the story, you realize this really was a great character. Because for a little while, he was the hottest thing ever. Then you kind of felt like a little bit like he was a character of itself, because like, okay, now now they're just running through the issues, and then you realize, no, he's actually been freaking awesome for years, and you just forgot about it.
Yeah. Well, also it's easier to like sort of look in the rearview mirror and kind of see the bigs. I mean, because there is a big overall story. It's just sometimes it's hard to see, issue to issue, especially in these books where you're just fighting some different monster every issue. It feels like that, and then suddenly 80 issues later you look back and like, oh wait, there was an architecture right to this. It was telling a story.
And if in Hell We Fight, one day I guess a Spawn or a Violator needs to show up somewhere in the background. But yeah, that's awesome to get to rate Spawn. So when that's ready to come out, come back on and make sure you talk about it, because like I said, I'm a big Spawn fan, so I'd love to read your series.
Well, okay, I'll tell you one other thing, and I'll tell you that I can't talk about it at all.
Okay.
And you'll know when it happens, and you'll want me back on the show, and I'm happy to do it.
Okay, that sounds absolutely awesome. Are we looking at in a few months, a few weeks, a year?
Well before the end of the year. Like,
oh,
I spent today in the McFarlane office.
Really?
Yeah, it's in Phoenix.
Yeah.
So that it makes it easy, because I can just drive there and sit with the editor and get free comics, and then just kind of bullshit. But they've got a writer at their beck and call that they can call for stuff, and I can be there in 20 minutes, and we're all taking advantage of that now.
Okay, well, you're gonna hear from me shortly. I get the feeling you're definitely hearing from me shortly. Thank you so much, sir. Like I said, you're gonna hear from me soon enough. So thank you so much.
All right, take care. Thanks for having me.